Hello, hello, Mary. How you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing, Lexi?
I'm good. I mean, it's rainy. It's Groundhog's Day. The groundhog didn't see a shadow. I'm all in for spring.
Nice. Oh,
We'll
I'm
see if
so
he's
ready for
right.
spring. So ready for spring.
So ready for spring. That groundhog better not be wrong.
It's wrong every year.
It's wrong every year, but I'm just saying right now, he will be on my blacklist. And my blacklist is intense. My femme
It is.
fatale, this is my femme fatale era.
I thought it was your Vixen era.
Well, that too, but
That too.
Black Widow coming at you.
Oh man.
Taking charge, be a badass with a good ass.
There
That's,
you go.
that's my slogan.
Badass with a good ass. Yes. I love
Thank you,
it.
Texas.
Yes, we still haven't posted pictures of
Oh,
our
I
special
know. Our
t-shirts. We need to do that.
swag.
Yes.
Texas swag.
Not to be confused with swass, but swag.
I was with some friends a couple days ago. We were
Or
very
swoob.
intensely talking about swass. And
Well, Texas does bring out the swass. So.
I didn't even know that term till Noah, my teenager, comes home and was like, "Oh my gosh, the gym room has so much swass." And I was like, "What is swass?" And there's like all this terminology that he starts rolling off his tongue, and I'm like, "Stop, stop, stop. This is gross. This is so gross. I'm not a gym bro. Don't share this with me. Gross, gross, gross. Let me live in a bubble that boys are clean and nice." Ew, ew,
So
ew.
nasty.
I know. I'm like, he's like describing
Oh man.
smells and
Oh,
looks, and I'm like,
oh,
that's enough.
gross.
Let me
Not
just pretend
interested.
like most boys have good hygiene, okay?
We we
We'll
can
deal with
pretend.
it as it comes. When they smell them, I will know, but I don't need to have the graphic idea of what that could equate to, okay? The smell is enough.
Oh my gosh. So
I'm sorry,
gross.
but smelly people,
No.
nothing against you, but I just can't do it.
I know. I kind of have an obsession with smelling good. That's like
Yes, you do.
one of my favorite things is just, to have nice smelly lotions and, smelly
Mhm.
candles. Like that's one of my big
Yes.
things. I love it. Yeah.
Yes.
And Benji, he'll shower every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, but he's not very good at wiping his own butt. So sometimes sometimes it's a little bit funky down there. But for the most part, he's got good hygiene
You just need to get him
because he
a
loves to shower.
bidet.
So I know we kind of do. Oh, speaking of, okay, so the other day I was at work, or I had gone into work, and I was been kind of in a mood lately, and part of it, well, part of it is because it's been a while, and I'm just like I. It's been a while and I need some attention and I'm not getting enough attention and it's kind of making me
Building up,
angry. It's
people.
building up and it's making me a little bit angry. So I'm all kind of huffy going into work and I'm tired and I'm annoyed and that kind of stuff.
Right,
And
yeah.
I go in and I talk to a friend and the person who I'm relieving. And she told me about her vacation that she just got back from. She went on a cruise and when she got off the cruise with her husband and her two kids, they her husband had a seizure and fell and broke both arms.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
never had a seizure before, but fell and broke both
Oh
arms.
my gosh.
Yeah. So they're out of state and they have to go to the hospital and
What
they
a
try to
nightmare.
yeah, they try to do surgery. It doesn't work. They end up having to do another surgery. So, 2 surgeries and multiple days stay in the hospital and
Oh
he
my
can't
goodness.
use his arms. Like all he can do is like this very small movement. So he can't
Oh,
work, he can't wipe his own butt, he can't help take care of the kids. And they're like, I don't know, 6 and 10 or something like that. So they're not like, babies, but still.
right.
So she's trying to work full time. She's trying to go to school and she's trying to take care of her husband who cannot do anything for himself. And I'm just like, "Okay, your problems are a lot worse than mine."
You win. I'll
You
sit
win.
down.
Like, my life is pretty freaking sweet compared
Holy
to yours right
cow.
now.
You're like, "I'll take my attention and
I
go
know.
somewhere else."
I know. So,
Because not only does she not get that, but she
yeah.
also has a husband who can't use his arms.
Yeah. So she had to get a bidet. That's where that came from. So,
Okay.
because
Oh
he
my
didn't want her to
gosh.
wipe his butt, so they got a bidet. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
So,
okay, remember last year how we came up with Fugly February? I found
yes.
an upgrade.
Okay.
Thank
Let's hear it.
you, Allah, my sister Desiree.
Yes,
Posted a
Desiree.
picture and posted the meme or picture, and I was like, oh dang, like this is it. It was
Okay.
February.
Feral what?
Feral February.
Feral February.
I was like, I like this.
Ooh.
Yes.
I liked Harry January.
Harry
But
January is good, but
that was
Feral
nice. But
February?
what is Feral February? Please elaborate.
Well, in my mind, I took Feral Fab Feral Fabu Feb I can't even say it.
Feral
Feral
February.
February as kind of like prowess, like for me in a woman's way, it's like I am just gonna unleash the animal inside type of thing. That's kind of my interpretation of fair, be it like glamorous or
Okay.
whatever that equates to is me
Okay.
taking charge of myself
Hmm.
and being kind of like animalistic about it. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Kind of like
Okay.
intense, don't think things through because animals just act. They don't really sit there and think, oh, what do I need to
Mhm.
do? What do I need to do?
Mhm.
And I feel like when you're an animal and you're being feral, you're just like, ah, I'm not going to think about anything. I'm just going to act and do anything. And I
Yeah.
mean, you don't want to be too impulsive, but maybe a
Yeah.
little impulsivity is okay.
Interesting.
I don't
Okay.
know. Let's look up what feral really means instead of Lex's
Well,
interpretation.
after,
A wild
uh,
state.
a wild state.
After
Okay.
escape from captivity and domestication. I
Okay.
like that. I'm a
That is
feral
interesting.
femme fatale. Triple F baby.
Oh, triple F February. Ooh, I like
Triple
it.
F February. Feral femme fatale.
Feral Femme Fatale.
That's gonna be the name of my coaching program. Feral femme fatale.
Love
Come
it.
at me.
Nice. Well, after Harry February, nope, it was Harry January. Sorry. I started reading A Court of Thorn and Roses. Have you heard of this book?
I have not heard of that.
It's been recommended to me multiple times, and my friend Allie, who I work with, she loves the author, Sarah J. Moss, Maas, and that's who wrote the book. And I'd heard from several sources that this book is so great, and I bought it. I don't know, a year or two ago, and I just never read it because I'm the kind of person who buys a lot of books and doesn't always read them. And anyway, but she's been trying to sell me on it. She wrote the whole list of this is the order you have to read them in and all this. I'm like, okay, whatever. So anyway, after Harry January, I
Mhm.
started reading A Court of Thorn and Roses, and it was really good. And so I am now on. I think there's 7 books in that series, so I'm on number 2, halfway through number 2, and in this series, there are fairies. It's kind of a
Okay.
fantasy, a little romantic kind of fantasy type thing. Anyway, there are fairies who have these different powers, and one or some of them can like change into beasts. They can change back and forth into a feral beast, but and back into humans, and some of them have wings, and some of them can have other powers and that kind of stuff. And um, the main character in the book that I'm reading now is just realizing that she has all these different powers that she didn't have before. And so she's realizing that she can kind of become a beast. Like she can like get her claws out, or that she can,
Mm,
control things in certain
I
ways that she
love
couldn't
that.
before.
Yeah.
And so she's just starting to recognize her power, and it's really cool to recognize that and to see how certain people will push her in certain ways and
Mm,
teach them and kind of teach her how to harness her power and use it, and it's pretty cool. It's very enjoyable. So anyway,
That sounds
I'm at now.
interesting. I might have to
Yeah.
borrow that book.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm in number 2 right now. But yeah. Anyway, um
What's it
so
called again?
uh it's called the first book is called A Court of Thorns and Roses, I believe. And it's often shortened to ACOTAR, ACOTAR, Court of Thorns and Roses.
Okay.
And I'm in the second book, which is A Court of Mist and Fury. So,
Okay. Yes, I've seen people posting about it.
yeah,
Is it a new
they're really
book?
good. No, this is not a new series, but she's kind of a prolific writer, and she just barely released a new book in the Crescent City series, which I guess is kind of a sister series in the same universe. But
Mm-hmm.
according to my friend's list for me, I have to read this series first before I read Crescent
Okay.
City.
Okay.
But she literally finished that whole book last night because like she went to the midnight, release of the book at Barnes and Noble and went and bought it and literally just like finished it last night at work. So yeah. Anyway, she's a little bit
Nice.
obsessed. And so that's kind of why I started it. But it's good. It's good so far. And I never really thought I'd be like a fantasy type person, but I'm enjoying it. And I'm
That's
reading a lot
awesome.
more than I have before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I read
Well, isn't Harry Potter
oh,
fantasy
it is, but yeah, I don't know. Harry Potter's kind of its own genre
genre?
for me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can see
I
that
think of
with a
it
lot of
less
people.
as fantasy and more about like friendship, you know? Like there's
Okay.
there's so many
Yeah.
like greater themes in Harry Potter versus this is
Right.
like
Versus world building.
kind of straight fantasy. Yeah, world building. Anyway, yeah, so today
It's a new
I
day.
it is a new day. No,
Just
so
teasing.
no, so I kind of prepared, 2 different, like, topics that I wanted to talk about, and I'm trying to decide which one. And I kind of want to go with, the one that I had kind of prepared last week, but anyway. So last week, um yeah, so last week I went to go see a movie, and because there are a lot
Mary
of good
sees a
movies in theaters
movie.
right now.
That
I'm Mary
sounds
sees
like
a
a
movie,
movie.
so I'm gonna have to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, this movie, which you would hate, is
Is it about
I.S.S.
space?
Yes, it is a space movie,
All
which
you
is
gotta
part of my
say is
list.
Lex is gonna hate it. Space. Space.
So so the movie is ISS for, International Space Station.
Okay. This
So
is
the
so
whole thing
funny.
takes place in space. And I'm like, "Lex would hate this," but it's really good. Okay.
It just space makes me so anxious.
Well, and this one would honestly be worse because it all, like, takes place in the space station, and the camera work kind of they have it, like, just kind of moving back and forth, like, in a kind of a slow sway so you feel like you're
Oh,
weightless,
okay.
and it's a little bit nauseating, like you're on a boat, you know? After a while, you kinda get used to it, but at first I'm like, oh,
Oh.
yeah. But it's I really liked it. It's kind of like a horror movie that's just, like, set in space, but
Right.
I really l it was very well done to me. It was also, like, under 90 minutes, which is awesome because there are so many movies that are, like, 2, 3 hours these days, and this one was, like,
Right. Oh,
tight
I
90
know.
minutes, like,
Movies are
really
getting
good
long.
editing. Yeah, really good editing, decent story, good character development. Anyway, I really liked it. So, there's only a cast of 6 people in this entire movie. So it's the 6 people who are on the space station. And there are 3 Americans and 3 Russians. And the Americans have 1 commander and the Russians have a commander. Anyway, but they all get along, they're very involved, they share everything, they work literally right next to each other. Um, anyway, so they're having a good time. And this 2 of the Americans have just come up onto it recently. Anyway, and one of them is, Ariana Oh, what is her
Grande.
last name? No, not Grande.
Just kidding.
No, DeBose, Ariana DeBose.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
like her. I
yeah,
like her.
she's fantastic.
Mhm.
Anyway, and she's there to do some medical research.
Mm,
Like, she's very private, like, she doesn't really judge anyone, she's just, like, kind of reserving judgment, just kind of observing, kinda doing her own thing, just there to do some medical research. She knows her purpose. Anyway, but while just right after she gets there, each um they take her up to the cupola to look out at the earth, and it's a really cool view of the earth, but they start seeing, like, explosions. They start seeing bombs happen, and they're
mm.
like, "What wait, what is happening?" Then each of the commanders gets a separate, um, uh, what's the word? Communication from Earth saying, "Take over the space station. This is now a territory war."
Oh, this would give me
And
so much
yeah.
anxiety.
And then the communication's cut off because it's a
Oh,
war
I
now
hate
on Earth,
movies like this
right?
so bad. They get my psyche so far
Yeah, so
deep in
it is
my
a very
psyche.
it's a very psychological movie. Anyway, so
Oh,
they're like,
just the thought of it is like,
yeah,
bleh.
but, they're friends, and what are they supposed to do? I mean, what is who's telling them what to do? What are they supposed to do?
Right.
They're friends. They're there to do, like, research. They're astronauts. They've worked hard to get to where they're at. And yet
Yeah.
someone on Earth who has, like, nothing to do with what they're actually doing up there is telling them basically to kill their friends, you know? And it's scary.
That
It
is
it is scary. So
horrifying.
who do you take orders from, and whose purpose are you serving? I mean, it's just,
Mm,
oh, it was it was kinda nerve-wracking, especially, knowing that it's in space and,
right.
you know,
Yeah,
so
just the
and all the
space
issues there.
element.
Yeah. So anyway, and then later that day, I heard a song. I was shopping, and I heard a song, um, that I hadn't heard for a while, which I love, and it is, "What About Us" by Pink. Do you know that song?
Yes.
Oh, it's
Yes.
so good.
It's a good song.
Yeah, and so, she says, "What about love? What about trust? What about us?" What is right? What do the authority figures want, and why should we want those same things? Do we even want the same things? And do we agree on the ends justifying the means? It just had me really thinking about this
Mhm.
movie and about, people and their priorities and our intentions. Um, so yesterday, I was accused of gaslighting a friend,
Oh,
someone we both know, and I was like, "Okay, I can see how it could come across that way." And
mhm.
because I've been trying to convince her that something may not be the way that she is perceiving it.
Right.
And I really can see how it could come across as gaslighting. But I felt like I was trying to teach her, to show her that there's a different perspective because she's very intent on keeping a perspective that I don't believe is true. Um, and so, but she says that, well, I can't handle this gaslighting. I'm going to block you. And I'm all, okay. Well, I still love you, but that I think what it comes down to is intentions. You know,
Yeah.
if gaslighting, in my opinion, is done with the intention of causing someone to feel like they're crazy,
Yeah.
to manipulate them into thinking that something is true or isn't true. Whereas I'm not trying to manipulate this friend. I'm trying to show her something that's different than the story that she's
Right.
telling herself.
Well, and I feel like from the perspective of someone who's been gaslit her entire
Mhm.
life and in her marriage quite a bit, like, um, I I don't know sometimes if people like, I think a lot of the times people don't realize that they're necessarily gaslighting. I think sometimes they are so committed to their narrative and their story that
Mhm.
they truly believe there is no way that you could ever be right or that you could ever have valid reasons or feelings. And so it like even
Or
if
there's no way that that story could be wrong.
right. And so it's like I think there are people who do intentionally want to do that maliciously with the intention of I want to make someone feel crazy. And I
Mhm.
also think that there are people that don't realize that they're gaslighting. They are just so in narcissistic or stuck in their ways or like unable to see a narrative or a story outside of their own that it ends
Mhm.
up gaslighting everybody else. And
Mhm.
they don't even have that mental capacity to be aware that they're doing it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
um I also feel like we all want to feel validated in our stories and in our narratives.
Mhm.
And sometimes we can get really caught up in the need for validation that we will cut off relationships if they don't feed that validation the way we want it to be.
Right.
And
Right.
that's really hard because yes, it's good to be validated. It's hard in relationships because you have to show up for each other. You got to be able to validate, but you also got to stay true to what you feel like is your alignment. And if there's not enough respect on both ends of both parties to respect that you may disagree and the other may disagree, but we're still going to stay together, or if we're going to just
Mhm.
like accuse each other of being cruel or malicious or whatever, then it ends up destroying that
Mhm.
relationship. Like a relationship, you have to see that not everyone's always going to align with you wholeheartedly,
Mhm.
and you have to work with that relationship going forward, whatever relationship that is. And you have to decide
Yeah.
where's the line where you're going to let it go or work on that relationship and say, despite our differences, I'm going to move on and work on this, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyways.
No, that's true. Um, so with intentions, what do we intend for ourselves? What do we intend for our relationships? What do we intend for other people? Um, like in baseball, if a pitcher will throw a ball and like hit a batter's hand,
Mm-hmm.
it could ruin that batter's career. That may not have been
Right.
intentional, but it could be damaging nonetheless.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? So, did you intend to destroy this batter's career? Not necessarily, you
Mm-hmm.
may have just been throwing a ball, maybe you just have bad pitch that time.
Right.
But that doesn't change the effect of it. And sometimes that can happen with our words. We may
Yeah.
not intend to cause the damage that it does, but sometimes our words can really cause damage, and I
Mm-hmm.
hope that I'm not causing damage to this person, but I feel like her story is really causing damage to a lot of relationships as well. So, I just have a few questions. Like, what if we want someone to understand us so much that we end up hurting them?
Mm.
And remember,
I
like,
think that happens
if
a lot.
something, yeah, and if something doesn't hurt us, then why is it okay to do it to others when it may be insufferable to them, you know? Some people can't handle swearing, some people can't handle naked people, some people can't handle blood and guts or snot or
Right.
pulling teeth. Everyone's built differently,
Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how we're built, and there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that if someone faints at the sight of blood that they should work in surgery. It's not a good fit. It's not something that you
Right.
should
Yeah.
force someone to do.
Unless they're so committed to getting over that they because they wanna work in surgery, that they're committed to learning how to handle that better.
Yeah, but it's gotta come from them. You
Yeah,
can't
like, you
force
can't
them
force that.
to.
No.
Right, or you're
Right.
gonna end up with someone fainting or puking, that's
Right.
not what
And
you
it
want.
will not work.
Yeah, or and here's another example is it if you insist on taking a neurospicy individual to an amusement park, you're probably gonna end up with a meltdown,
Mm,
for
yeah.
example. When Benji was little, I took him to kind of our one of our little county fair type things. We call it Taylorsville
Mhm.
Days with 2
Oh,
Z's
yeah.
because we live in Utah. And oh my gosh, it's so dumb. But I took him on the Ferris wheel because I thought this would be fun, right? But it was just
Right.
kind of one of those little community, pop up Ferris wheels that's there for a week. And, they are sketch. They
They
are,
are. I know, I always look at 'em, I'm
they're a
like, "That
little
thing's gonna
scary.
roll off its tracks, everybody's getting smashed."
I know. But that was so but I took him because I thought it would be fun, and he did okay, but as soon as the Ferris wheel was coming down, and it was stopping and everyone was getting off, he, like, started, like, giving me kisses and stuff. He's like,
Oh, like,
"Please,
"Please,
get me off of
please,
here, please."
you're
Like, he
touching
couldn't
me,
he
mom."
couldn't say it, but I could tell
Oh,
that that
that's
was
so
what he
cute.
wanted
That's
because
adorable.
he was not into the Ferris wheel.
Cute
So,
Benny.
speaking of, there he is. There's my funny boy. And I have never taken him on a Ferris wheel since. He, like,
I personally
avoids
don't
them.
like Ferris wheels. I think they're so unnerving.
They are. They are a little bit sketchy. Yeah, anyway. And another one is, that I thought of is if you insist on speaking to an authority figure, especially, someone in the patriarchy. Oh, my child just stole my chocolate. Anyway, if you if you insist on speaking to an authority figure in a way that doesn't convey enough respect, then you are gonna get shut down or
Mm,
escorted out or arrested. And unfortunately, if you're a person of color, I mean, that could even be like I hate to say this, but, it could be a death sentence. And I know that, especially Black men and, Black parents of Black men, like, have to
right.
teach their children to speak very, very respectfully to police because it
It's
could
just
be a
this
death
unfair
it could be
precedence
a death
already.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it could be a death sentence, so you have to be very careful. But if
Well, and
if you're
it's
trying to
almost go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry, but if you're trying to, like, affect change, you have to do it respectfully. You can't come in,
Mhm, and
guns
demand.
a-blazing and yelling and venting and all this stuff, like, that's not gonna get you anywhere. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and a message that's laced with anger always falls on deafened ears.
Mhm. Yeah,
And what I was just gonna say is, like, there's a lot of times where people are in authority who did nothing to be in that authority, and it's really, like and they're kind of crappy figures in authority, and they make these demands. Like, there's a lot of times that that happens.
yeah,
But nothing's going to change being angry and matching their crappiness to get them out of the position. It just puts you in a further like, in a corner, even more so. And
yeah,
so the best way is to be opposite and be sweet and be influential, and
mhm.
that's where you actually can take power better.
And energy matches energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have especially found that to be true with Benji. Um, when I get angry and frustrated, he gets angry and frustrated, and it just escalates and it gets awful. And that's how we got to where we're at with haircuts, which are just
Yeah,
not happening anymore at all. But
he's gonna have hair to his toes,
oh my gosh,
people.
it's that that's how we got to where we're at. And the other Sunday, I came home from work because I work Saturday night, and I was angry and frustrated, and I just kinda start yelling, "What are you doing?" And he just kinda he matches my energy. And
Yeah.
then so I had to, like, take a step back and just like, "Okay, we're okay. You don't have to wear this shirt." Like, things like that.
Mhm.
I had to calm myself first, and he was
Yeah.
fine. So, yeah, if you come in, like, screaming at someone and they shut down, then that's a thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing that people do when
Mhm.
you yell at them and
Yeah.
when you
To make
decide that
demands.
yeah, make demands and decide that your opinion is more important than theirs and your feelings need to be understood. It's just it's a hard thing to watch this happening
Mhm.
and to know that my friend has this story that she's not loved and she's not cared for, and I know that she is, but because it's not in the way that she thinks it should be,
Right.
she thinks
That's
it doesn't
hard.
exist at all.
It's so hard to write. I mean, I felt that way in my story growing up. Like, this must equate to I'm not lovable. I'm not this. I'm not that. And it is really hard to take that power out of the hands of people that should have showed up in that way.
Mhm.
And regardless of whether it was love in the way that you interpreted it or love in the way that it should, the standard says it should be, like
Mhm.
regardless of how it was interpreted, you don't feel like you're receiving love.
Yeah.
And that hurts. And that is a
It
painful
does.
place to be. And so you
Yeah.
do start writing narratives to fill in the blanks and make sense of it. And
Mhm.
so taking the power out of those hands of people who should be giving you this type of love and support is really, really hard, but it is the most healing when you take that power out and say, I'm the giver of love. I'm the one that gets to decide if I'm lovable or
Mhm.
if I have love and if I can give love and receive love. I get to be the deciding factor of that, not that person or that person or that person.
Yeah.
They don't have that title in my life anymore, and they no longer are responsible for helping me identify whether or not I'm lovable, you know? And sometimes you don't have to even say that to their face. You do it privately and you just start doing that mental pattern, that
Mhm.
mental remapping in your head
Mhm.
to establish that. And sometimes when you establish that, all of a sudden those relationships can come back in your life and you're in a better place to receive whatever way they want to love you.
Yeah.
And you can see it for what it is. And it
Mhm.
may not equate to what level of love you want to give to you in your relationships that are similar, but you're in a much better place.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and you're not requiring someone else to magically heal you,
Yeah.
you know? I was listening to a podcast I don't know if it was yesterday, but it was the other day. Um, and it was the what is it? Sorry. Um, the We Can Do Hard Things podcast, which I know you love.
Mm, yeah.
And it was episodes 263 and 264 with Dr. Lindsay C. Gibson, and they were talking about emotional immaturity. And one of them said that it's like having so becoming an emotionally mature person is like having a bag of gold, but someone else is holding a bag of pennies, and being angry at someone for not giving you their bag of pennies is like it, why do you put so much emphasis on getting this bag of pennies from someone when you have a bag of
The,
gold within you? I think
mhm.
a lot of people don't realize they have that bag of gold, and they're
Yeah.
so desperate for anything, for that validation, for the proof that they are loved and valued and all this stuff from someone else, when all that's worth is pennies compared to
Right.
the gold that you actually have within you. So,
It's true. It's true. It's the same reason why, someone can tell you cute, tell you you look pretty
mhm.
one day, and the next day you feel ugly. Like it doesn't last every single day. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like you can have days where you feel pretty and you're not going to know you're pretty until you establish that belief within yourself and see it within yourself and give yourself the reasons why you're pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're constantly looking for someone else to say, "Hey, you look cute today," that only lasts like an hour. 'Cause then
Mhm.
you look in the mirror and maybe your makeup smudged, like, all of a sudden, you just look like a mess, and you're like, "Wow, I'm really not that cute." So, it's the same thing, like, an apology is nice, but an apology is not gonna fix the wounds inside of you, that's so much inner work.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're demanding an apology, what's gonna be the intention behind it? Why are you demanding it? Are you intending to heal a relationship, or are you just intending to feel better for the moment?
Mm.
If you are demanding that someone talk to you when they don't feel comfortable talking to you, what is that gonna heal? If you're demanding that someone take over the International Space Station, you know, without without giving them an actual reason why, I mean, how's that gonna fly?
Right.
'Cause,
Yeah.
those astronauts did not, like, train for years and live and study and do all these things just to go up and kill the people that they were working with, that's not what you intended to do. They
Right.
intended to live in peace and work and grow and create good things that will help humanity. I mean, what do we intend and what do we want out of our relationships? It's something to think about, what about all the
Yeah.
what about us? What about all the plans that ended in disaster? Like Pink said, these are things that are tough, but they're things that we need to think about as well when we are dealing with the relationships. So, anyway.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you, Mary. That was good. It's good food for thought of what our intentions with our relationships, our conversations, our stories. Like, I think if we could just stop and think a little bit about our intentions with
Mhm.
things before we act, I think it would help us really be wise in a lot of ways
Yeah.
in navigating forward with everything. So I love it. Well, thank you for listening. And oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, just remember, queens, you've got that bag of gold within you. So,
You do.
yeah,
Thank you.
stop begging for pennies because that you've got the
Yeah,
gold.
I love that. Stop begging for pennies. Oof, that's good.
Right?
That's right. You're the queen with all the gold. Stop looking for the peasants to give you their pennies. Gosh dang it. Anyways, be a queen, hold on to your gold, and stop looking for pennies. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.